record button. Da iawn, croeso. Welcome to this rather special Meet the Funder session, our own fund, Communities Count. Just as roi tyma bach o gefndir I Cymunedau'n Cyfrif, I'll just give you a little bit of background to Communities Count before we move on to take you through the application form itself. Larry will do that. So if you do have any questions, just in case we'll pick them up as we go through, add them to the chat function, which is right at the bottom of the screen, and Rebecca will be keeping an eye out for any questions. Bydd Rebecca yn cadw llygad math yn mynd drwy gwestiynau yn y chat. Pawb yn hapus, everybody comfortable with that approach? Brilliant, great. Felly, just tyma bach o gefndir, just a little bit of background. Some of you may have come across Cynnal and the Shared Prosperity Fund, but our Communities Count project is funded through the Multiply element of the levelling up funding from UK government. One of, I think, Teleri, 6 or 7 projects in Ceredigion. Yeah. So we are working closely with the other projects across Ceredigion as well in our delivery. And benodol I Cymunedau'n Cyfrif, specifically for Communities Count, we wanted to give communities the opportunity to fund and run activities just to improve numeracy skills in adults across Ceredigion. And basically, when we say that, we mean absolutely anything and everything to do with numbers. We want people to be really, really creative. So the programme itself is looking at developing the skills of those who are 19 and over, who don't have a maths qualification over level 2. And if I remember rightly, that's GCSE, isn't it, and above. So there are very many in Ceredigion. And not all beneficiaries have to be in that category, but obviously they're the individuals that we want to be reaching. And through the community activities, all we would ask of you is that you then, we don't necessarily want you to be running courses yourselves, but we would want you to be promoting the other courses that are available through partners in Ceredigion, particularly Dysgu Bro, Ceredigion County Council and Coleg Ceredigion as well. Felly, byddwn ni'n holi I chi I hybu cyrsiau eraill sydd ar gael trwy'r rhaglen. So, we haven't got much time, there's dim llawer amser dyn ni. We have to get everything spent and finished by the end of December this year. Not ideal, but I know several groups are looking at summer activities, the beginning of winter support and winter activities as well. So, so it's a good opportunity to get a few community activities in there. O ran yr arian, in terms of the funding, the grant scheme is open for applications. We've got 2 different streams. One is a fast track scheme. So we're looking at supporting any activities that are between 200 and 2,000, isn't it, Rebecca and Larry? And then we've got the main scheme for projects that are have a value of £2,000 to £10,000. We will consider exceptional projects over 10,000, but those are the parameters that we're working in at the moment, just to give third sector groups and communities as much of an opportunity as possible to apply, and that we can support as many communities as possible and projects as possible through the scheme as well. So what kind of things are we looking for? Again, we want communities to be really, really creative, and when you think about numbers and just introducing people gently to numbers, it can cover a whole array of different things, from gardening to cooking. Cooking on a budget is really quite popular. We've had a few groups as well that are really interested in doing sessions for people to understand their energy costs, and especially where they might be able to make some savings in that space. Sport, fitness, you know, most of those kind of things can involve numbers. Board games, particularly, would have that link, and things as well to do with budgeting, because if we're doing some of this, we would really like to be in the position where we're helping people with the continuing cost of living crisis and trying to improve well-being and life for people. Felly ni'n edrych ar ystod eang o wahanol gweithgareddau a wahanol prosiectau. So fi'n credu mae neges yw triwch ni, try us. If it's got anything to do with numbers, then give us a shout. And I think the applications, because it's already open, the panel have already considered a few applications, and we've had a few applications through the fast track system. And I think all of the applications kind of cover those topics. Is there anything that I've forgotten? They're the main ones that we can think of, but open to any ideas ar agor ar gyfer unrhyw syniadau. So just try us. If you come up with an idea, just submit and give us a shout. Felly na'r cyfan o ran y cefndir, that's it in terms of the background. We are hoping, aren't we, Teleri? We've planned with the panel that we're meeting on a very, very regular basis, so that applicants aren't having to wait a huge amount of time before they get the nod and they can start on their activities. So we're hoping to turn things around very, very quickly. Felly, ymlaen fi'n credu, Teleri, i'r ffurflen gais, on to the application form.
Yeah. The only thing you did miss out was carpentry and crafts.
Yeah, crafts and yeah.
And also we've had a few activities with families. So the skills numbers involved with the parents, but also there's activities here for children to so that everyone's doing numbers together. There are two ways to access to get a hold of the application form. Let me share my screen. Screen 2. Okay, can you see the screen? You're nodding. So one way to get the application form is from CAVO's website, and it's on the page CAVO grant schemes. So if you scroll down there, you can see our current grant schemes which have open, which is first aids, community discounts, and youth-led grants. And there's a link there in the box, community discounts, to this application form. But the other way you can get the application form is through Connect. I'm hoping you switched to Connect now, Rebecca. Yeah, good. So this is the Connect homepage. If you haven't been on Connect and you haven't logged on, please do. For Multiply, there's a dedicated page. You click on it from the front page, then click again. There, it gives a little bit about the background, which Hazel has already explained. And there's a little bit of background there, which Hazel has already gone through. There's examples of projects that have been funded, but also ideas that what projects could possibly fund. But if you go back to the apply button, it just goes a link there to the application forms. And I'll just go through the fast track one. Both forms are very similar. There's just through, I think. Oh, I need to go back to I was clicking on it earlier, so that's why it's gone straight to that page. So when you click on it first, it just needs a start form. On the first section, it's very simple. Who are you? Describe your organization, postcode, contact details, email address, and your legal structure. For today, because I need to go home first, but I'm just going to press 1 so I can go. So I can go to the next page. So the second section of the application form, this is where you tell us what you want to do. The name of project, a short description. That description then will be used on Connect when we give examples of what has been funded. Your priorities, so just then explain that you are focusing on numbers and increasing confidence in numbers. What exactly you want to do, what resources you need, and then timetable. When will the activities be held? Just confirm that it will be held by end of the year, and who will benefit. So as Hazel explained, that the target is over 19-year-olds living in Ceredigion and without below a level 2 qualification maths, but the activity can have a wider audience of that. It just that explains us the participants will be over 19, but the activity can, as explained, be wider. So you can have families there and activities for crash for families, or you can have people who have a higher qualification, but the majority will be in the eligible group there. Then it goes on asking about the impacts. How do you know that this will be the impact? What will be the short-term, long-term impact? And also asks you how you signpost and refer to other Multiply projects. So if you are successful, we will give you a list of all the other Multiply projects as well. So that will help you in promoting and signposting. Then it just goes ask about roughly how many people will benefit, how many volunteers involved in organising and holding sessions, how many sessions itself, and then there's a couple of questions there about Welsh language and equality and accessibility. Then we ask you about project costs and breakdown. Try and include the project costs, all the costings involved. This could be its coordinator's time, refreshments, transport. What are kind of other costs we've got? We've had if you need equipment, if you need resources, craft, if you're doing craft sessions,
venue hire,
yeah, promotion of the sessions themselves. It quite varied. I think we've had from a tent, an igloo foam, to a fire pit, to cooking and ingredients. So it does really depend on what your project is. And there's just a summary. And then it explains if any grant schemes are there else, or what you hope to do in the future. Question 25 asks you, have you got a governing document, your accounts and safeguarding policies? You don't necessarily have to send me these when you apply, just tick them so we know when we do need to ask you this question, you have them ready. And then just click agree in statements. So when you submit it, there's an option then you can print a copy off for yourself and keep. I'm going to stop sharing.
We've tried to keep the questions as simple and straightforward as possible, haven't we, Teleri? It kind of reflects what we're being asked to report on. So some of the questions are unavoidable, but we've tried to keep it straightforward.
And the fast track, what differs from both applications, when the questions about Welsh language and accessibility, it is a simple case of ticking a box, yes, you have considered it. So there's the difference, the main differences between the large application and the fast track application. For the fast track one, our turnaround is usually a week. And for the larger ones, as Hazel said, the panel are meeting on a regular basis. So within hopefully a few weeks, you would be get notified of that as well.
In terms of costs, one of the other things that we've suggested is any costs around care, whether that's childcare or dependents care as well, that you might want to or need to consider. Croeso, Ruth. Welcome, Ruth. We are recording the session, Ruth, so the bits that you missed earlier on, you can catch up on anyway.
Would you like me to go through Connect in a bit more detail?
Go on, Rebecca.
Okay, so I'm just putting the link in the chat for everyone if you haven't already had a look on Connect and seen the Multiply pages. Let me just share my screen. So hopefully you can see that. We've got an initial page which is just about what Communities Count is, and it's a bit of the background, and apologies I'm not doing this bilingually, I'm not as good with my Welsh language as Teleri and Hazel, as that's their first language. So the history is just, again, it's what the purpose of the fund is. We've got timelines on here. So we mentioned earlier about the large fund, the main grant. The panel meeting dates are set monthly, and so the deadline dates are before each panel meeting. So if you get the application in before the deadline, it will go to that panel meeting, which will be the following week. So you should hear back within a couple of weeks. The fund itself is staying open though, so even though we've got deadline dates, the application form won't actually close. It just means if you get it in late, it'll roll over to the next panel meeting. And then we've got a few bits about what's happening with the communities count, and as activities are being done by groups, that will go up on here, because one of the requests that we've got for groups that are doing communities count activities is that they register on Connect and promote their activities on there, and that way we can promote as well, and we can show people what's actually going on, what the fund is being used for. And you've got the application form page, which is what Terry just went through, so it's got a bit of a guidance on here, a few examples about what you could include in the application. And if you do need to get a paper copy of the application, then it's got the email as well, so you can just get in contact with us, we can send that out. Ideally though, what we do is support you to do it online if you're able to, but we have got a paper option if you need it. And then again, what Larry mentioned is the examples and the funded projects. So these are the two larger applications that have been funded so far. As we get more applications going through panel, they'll be added too, so you can get some inspiration from here about what activities have already been done. And then we've got just the basic ideas about what you might want to do. So it comes back to what Hazel was saying at the beginning about arts and crafts, woodworking, or the ones she didn't mention. The ones she did mention is the sports, the board games and card games. So thinking more towards the winter, where you had the warm spaces funding previously, there's been a bit of a gap. But if you are still running warm spaces, you can think about, are you going to be having board games, card games? Is there space then for the adults coming in? Do they meet that criteria of being over 19 and not having that qualification? In which case, and this funding might be able to help you with warm spaces. We've got the water sports and outdoor activities. So again, that's more towards the sort of the outdoor groups that are doing that. But then you've got the gardening, so Ruth, you're here, so the growing, all the counting involved in planting and spacing, watering and all sorts of things like that. Cooking is a good one as well, like Hazel mentioned. You've got the cooking on a budget, so you can actually do the whole budgeting with the buying of the ingredients. There's the measuring and proportions, portion sizes as well, if you could bring in the healthy eating. So there's lots of scope with all of that. And as already been said, it's not just about the individuals that meet the criteria, it's the wider impact it can have as well. So bringing in the family events, getting the adults to do the sort of maths, the difficult, I say difficult, it's relative, the more complicated maths, and then having the families come in to do the actual cooking activities and the more basic maths potentially, or just having it as a session where the adults can come along to do the maths side, and then providing the childcare and the carer for any other adults that need it. There's lots of scope, and yeah, as has already been said, try us. We've got the money. We don't want to keep it, so give it a go. And if there's anything that can be improved, we will come back to you. It won't just be a cut off to say no, sorry, bye. We'll come back and say, well, have you thought about doing it this way? Or there'll be scope for improvements and changes. And that's Connect.
Thank you, Rebecca. And yeah, I suppose while you're thinking about your questions, ma' 'na gysylltiad arall. There is another link. As I was saying, there are other providers that have been funded that have accredited courses. So if you wanted something specialist, Teleri, we could have a chat with Dysgu Bro and Coleg Ceredigion to see whether they would be interested in delivering for you. If you've got an idea, if you've got an audience, then that might be another way round. You know, you could be putting in a bid to cover all of your costs and anything else that you might want to do as part of the project, but we could link you with one of those individuals who might be able to deliver the course that you need.
And there's an example of that already. So Aberporth Village Hall, they actually have colleagues who are Coleg Ceredigion coming in to run the course. But again, so if that was something, that we could support,
then we would be happy to. Now, unrhyw cwestiynau, any questions about communities count? Rhywbeth o gwbl.
Gallai holi cwestiwn?
Wrth gwrs.
Chi'n gwybod gyda'r, chi oedd eisiau gweud yn ti'r energy a costings a pethau fel yna, a obviously ynglyn â'r goginio pethau ar budgeting, sut dyn ni'n ffeindio mas pwy tutor sydd ar gael mwyn i ni gwahodd nhw i wneud sesiwn iddyn ni?
Yeah, allwn ni gysylltu ti lan, Sharon. We can link you up with, I guess Dysgu Bro would be our first point of call, Teleri. And
Potentially, but you might also want to look at other groups. So things like the energy, you might want to have a look at maybe Citizens Advice coming in to run that session. And you know, around budgeting, there might be other groups that could do that as well. So it won't necessarily be a formal tutor.
Yeah,
that would come in. But yeah.
Yeah, we do know a couple of people around the energy, in the energy space that have got courses.
Okay.
So just let us know the kind of things that you might be interested in, Sharon, and we'll make a few links. Diolch ti, Sharon.
Okay, diolch Hazel.
No problem.
Hiya, sorry, my internet can't go on because my connection, my video can't go on because my internet connection's dodgy, so it glitches. So if you apply, can you apply for, say, the small one and the larger one, or do you just have to go for the larger one?
No, as long as the projects are different, then you can have more than one project in the system.
Can you have them at the same time then, sort of like start one and then?
Yeah, because the funding is only available until the end of December. So you know, if groups have got a few ideas, then now is the time, isn't it? I guess we haven't got the luxury of time to finish one project and then start another. We might need to be running projects side by side.
Okay, yeah, because we were thinking about doing things like around food storage, food pickling, that type of thing, something different. There's demand in the area for it. But it was sort of like, would you then provide things like, you were saying about the materials earlier, equipment, would you provide things like a pressure cooker and jars and things like that to go with it?
If that's what you need for your project, include it. If you include everything in the bid, then the panel will go through and decide whether everything's eligible or not. So if you can get costings and if you can just add everything, include everything, then I think that's the best approach, isn't it, Teleri?
Okay, yes. And how specific would we need to be as well? And so say there's the pickling now, for instance, would we need to say we need 20 jars, 20, I don't know, cucumbers, 20 broccoli or whatever to put into the pickling jar? Would we need to be that specific? Or could you say a pickling experience and then do less specific, you know? How in depth do you need?
A little detail, I guess, Larry, so we understand exactly what the project, because you sometimes can tell more about what a group wants to do with the funding through the costings than the project description. So we would need a little bit, you know, be as detailed as you can be at this stage in terms of what you think you might need.
We've had a few applications that in the application form itself, they said that they would email us a spreadsheet because they've worked out the costings in a spreadsheet. So if you find that easier, do that. You can email the breakdown to us.
And Ruth, what the panel would be keen to do is make sure that you've covered everything and that everything's included in the cost. So that's why we ask for a little bit of detail so that we know that no opportunities have been missed.
Okay, brilliant, thank you.
No problem. And Caroline, thank you for joining us. We have recorded this session, Caroline, so we will send you the link through so that you can catch up on the detail. I just covered a bit of the background. It's Shared Prosperity Fund monies Multiply, so we are looking at numeracy. But through Communities Count, it doesn't have to be accredited training. It's about introducing people to numbers quite gently in community activities so that we can promote some of the accredited courses. So main target audience, people over 19 without GCSE or equivalent maths, but then it can be a wider audience because people can take that message to others in the community as well. So we're being a little bit flexible in terms of that numbers approach. And funding comes to an end at the end of December. So we are looking at community activities, summer activities, and as Rebecca was saying earlier, many groups were part of the Warm Hub scheme. So we can catch that the beginning of winter at least, can't we? Through this funding. So looking at all sorts of things from gardening to sport to board games to looking at energy or budgeting. So yeah, it's got numbers in it. Try us.
That could include understanding a bus timetable and reading and calculating times for journeys.
Good do.
Very good.
Yeah, good do.
I'm glad you got that slant in.
Yeah.
I can get numbers into most anything.
Yeah, no, your audience. Sharon, you wanted to come back in.
Yeah, gallech chi weithio fi, ch'mod, obviously mae lot o dolion yn methu darllen a ysgrifennu. Bydde hwnna'n gallu dod mewn a hefyd falle mae rhai plant hefyd. So bydde ni, obviously, os mae'r odolion yn dod mewn, bydde ni wedyn yn gallu dod mewn a plant hefyd neu na?
Odi, mae hwnna'n iawn, os bod hwnna'n bosib. Achos mae na cyfle wedyn yn dos i rhieni neu'r sawl sy'n edrych ar ôl y plant. I think quite a few schemes are looking at children so that they can target the parents or those who are looking after the children. So it's a good way of including everybody. I think the last BORTH application that we saw, Teleri, was about activities for families, which is a really good approach. Ond mae fe just ar gyfer rhifau, it is just for numeracy rather than other basic skills like literacy. I know they've tried for a long time to expand it to include literacy and digital literacy as well. But yeah, it was a big no. So this programme is just about numbers, unfortunately.
So os bydd cwpl o llyfrau gyda'r rhifau, dwi'n ni'n iawn, ydyn ni?
Yeah. Just as long as you get the numbers in, Sharon, anything's possible.
And think about things like word counts, how many pages people have read, and calculating sort of average speeds, reading speeds, things like that. So that can all come into literacy as well. And same with writing.
Would we then be able to have, how do we go about then finding out what sort of books that we would have to buy for them?
That would be your choice. That would be something that there wouldn't be any official sort of guidance about what books. It would be depending on what you were trying to achieve with the project, really.
Okay, fine. Okay,
and again, Sharon, it might be, falle bydde fe werth I gysylltu ar rhywun fel Dysgu Bro. It might be worth getting in touch with Dysgu Bro, because I'm assuming that Dysgu Bro does cover off adult literacy as part of their other work. So falle bydde fe werth to beth yn y
fi wedi cwrdd gyda Alison a Catrin o Dysgu Bro, maen nhw wedi bod gyda fi yn y hub.
Great, fantastic.
Okay.
So falle bydde fwy o expertise dyn nhw yn y maes, os bod ti syniad o beth sy'n gweithio.
Okay, iawn, diolch.
No problem.
Is this a good opportunity to explain a bit about what Jigsaw's project, and then so there's a link to both, because they've done both been funded to do homework sessions. So supporting the parents to support their children with their homework. So that's one other way of getting children and adults involved.
Because people might not feel that they're confident with numbers, or they might not think that they need confidence in numbers, but it's day to day, isn't it? It's around us. We do deal with it every single day, and that homework angle seems to work quite well. Da iawn. Unrhyw gwestiynau eraill? Any other questions? Get in touch if you think of anything. Cysylltwch os fyddwch chi'n meddwl am unrhyw beth. A mi fyddwn ni'n rhannu'r sesiwn ma. We will be sharing the recording for this session. So again, if you want to share it with anybody else in your group, or if you don't just want to refresh some of the details, then you are more than welcome. Felly newn ni dynnu'r sesiwn I gloi. We'll close the session. Thank you very, very much for your time this afternoon. And get your bids in. Apply.